Hallo, wie geht's? Willkommen, willkommen. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. As always, my name is Juan, joined by my comrades Mark und Kevin. And wir mögen Filme. That's
Bum, bum, bum.
that's German for we like movies.
Good,
Say
good.
what?
I don't know. I was trying to learn some German real quick. I do not know
Okay.
German.
Okay. Today we are discussing Mark's pick, the Netflix World War One epic, All Quiet on the Western Front.
Bum, bum, bum.
Of course, the movie is an adaptation of the 1929 novel by the same name, regarded by some to be the greatest war novel of all time. The film is directed by German director Edward Berger and features the talents of Felix Kammerer, Albrecht Schuch, Aaron Hilmer, Moritz Klaus, Adrian Grunewald, and Daniel Bruhl.
Bum, bum, bum.
Exactly. The film was also written by Berger, Leslie Patterson, and Ian Stokell. It was released on October 28th of 2022. It is currently streaming on Netflix with a runtime of 2 hours and 28 minutes. I was waiting for it again.
Bum, bum, bum.
All right, let me give you a brief synopsis for those who don't know. All Quiet on the Western Front follows German teenage friends Paul, Franz, Albert, and Ludwig, who voluntarily enlist in the German army, riding a wave of patriotic fervor. However, reality sets in almost immediately as they experience the brutal hardships of life on the front line and in the trenches. The teens' preconceptions about the enemy, morality, survival, and conflict soon crumble. All along, it becomes painfully clear that in war, soldiers are mere pawns in the hands of bald, egomaniac, legacy driven commanders with full bellies and wine stained teeth who pass down orders from lavish quarters that will determine life and death for young boys and young men who have dreams of returning home. The film opens with some scenic shots of the frigid snow-covered landscape before an incredible shot of a fox in a den with newborn pups, a fitting symbol of the youth and innocence of the four high school boys who are bursting at the seams to join the fight, due in part to some wartime nationalist propaganda. Unlike some other war films like Saving Private Ryan or The Dirty Dozen, the plot in All Quiet is more just lingering on the day-to-day events that the soldiers encounter during their tour and the dreaded expectation of their probable demise. We follow the boys as they make creative ways to find meals, dodge bullets and grenades in the maze-like trench, receive letters from home, discover an entire dead platoon, hook up with French girls, and of course, see those around them perish, leading the viewer to ponder the fate of the four friends. Will they survive the mayhem and return to pick up their lives where they left off, or will they lose their lives in the battle, leaving it for another soldier to pick up their dog tags? Mark, this was your pick. Why don't you start us off telling us why you picked this and giving us your first impression?
Bum, bum, bum. Okay, fair enough. I'm a war movie advocate. I like them all. The more gruesome, the better. Only because I know I'll never be a part of war, so I guess that's why I'm okay with it. But the trailer looked amazing, and yeah, I simply went off of that.
And what was your first impression?
Like when the movie started or before it started? What do you mean?
Your first take. What'd you think of the movie?
Oh, you want me to give? Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. You worded that weirdly. Yeah. This is probably going to be my new top favorite war movie, topping a juggernaut on its own.
Okay. Kevin, would you care to go next, or would you like me to take it from here?
I'll go next. All right. So, before I start, I want to tell you right now that our sound effects machine is in the shop for repairs, so there will be no sound effects on this. Sorry, that's breaking sad news.
Hey,
But
without even knowing that, Mark's been picking up the slack already.
I know. I was like, oh, he's doing great. But I just wanted to put that on. Just some prayers going up for the machine. All right.
Well, fun facts won't be as fun.
All right. So
That's true.
All right. So my thoughts on the movie. I went into this movie wanting to not like it. I don't know why. I can't tell you why. Maybe it was because RRR wasn't nominated for Best Foreign Movie, and this movie was. But regardless, I did not want to like this movie. I watched the first act of this movie with a chip on my shoulder. I was thinking, man, it's too slow, too bland, etc., etc., etc. And as this movie rolled along, it started to chip away at that little chip on my shoulder. It showed the graphic side of war, like a little bit like Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers, but it also showed the sadness and horrors that happened between the actual fighting and just like in Platoon. By the end, I did find myself fully invested, but just like the White Boys and Pale Blue Eye, all those mustache men started looking the same to me. I'm like, oh, I thought you died. No, that was the other mustache guy. I will say there's spoilers coming up. I did not think that they had the cojones to kill off Paul at the end. And once they did, they won me over. I was like, oh, this movie's great. I was like, I did not think that was going to happen because I thought he was going to go back to life. And I think some review I read or some synopsis said it's about people after they come back from war. And I'm like, all right, well, he's going to be able to tell their stories. But no one survived to tell the stories. And
He meant everyone else, not Paul.
Yeah, I'm like, oh wow, like, but all those things that they went through, they all died, their group, and it just reminded me of actual war where there's so many stories lost to the sands of time. It showed that the innocence and ignorance of youth. They were so excited for war to serve, but in actuality, they were just disposable pieces in a machine. And like in The Hidden Life, this movie showed that German soldiers were actual humans and not just heartless monsters. And this movie should easily win Best Foreign Film, and it fully proved that it deserves a seat in Oscar's Best Picture category. And that was my thoughts of it.
Do you still feel that the same way about the Germans going into World War II?
Well, I just believe like it gave me that, you know what, that not everyone was, because we just think of them as these they're all heartless monsters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they weren't, like, some of them weren't. They were actual people. They were just following orders. Unfortunately, they were horrible orders.
Yeah.
But they weren't like, even in this movie, they showed like those commanding officers were bastards, but the soldiers weren't necessarily, horrible people.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that was slightly kidding, but watching this, just as I was waiting for us to go on tonight, I started watching it again, and even at the beginning, when they're so excited to, they're getting riled up with this speech by this, the headmaster of this school that's getting ready to send them off. And even it was interesting to me that even then you could see like even how, the seeds were already being planted, or the idea or whatever techniques they used, right, to then unleash their full propaganda for the next world war and what they ultimately became. But yeah, no, I before I go into my stuff, I did want to ask, did you guys watch it in German or in English?
Oh no, in English, but the English dub was fantastic.
Oh, okay.
There was like real emotion behind it.
Kevin?
No, I watched it in English because that's just what it was set to. So I was like, all right.
Oh, okay. I'm the only one then. I watched German with English subtitles.
Man, you must have heard a lot of screaming. Eigengugen, Eigengugen.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And also, I don't think it doesn't sound like we're gonna have this issue, but I was gonna say that if either of you gives this less than a 4, then I'm literally gonna stick my hand down your pants the next time I see you to check if you still have balls.
Hey, I might just give it a low score now.
I know you will.
I know, you threatened me with a good time.
Anyway, to me, this film is nothing short of a masterpiece and a masterclass in epic storytelling. The movie does an incredible job, as has already been said, of depicting the unglorified horrors and realities of war and the men who fight in them. You know, from the misguided youthful excitement of defending your motherland to the hunger, cold, exhaustion, loneliness, and trauma of deployment and battle, and the never ending homesickened length of it all. Truly, war is hell. And with this film, we see that it is also tragic, horrifying, traumatic, and reflective of the beauty and darkness of the human experience. Told with exquisite cinematography, incredibly elaborate set pieces, and a realistic tone, it was an experience that induces sadness, heartbreak, and sobering devastation, as it even harkens back to a previous era of movie making, both in its grand scale and its dedication to SAT word here, verisimilitude.
Oh.
Can you use that in a sentence, please?
The movie had a lot of verisimilitude.
Language of origin, please.
um, as Mark exemplified for us, the movie starts with an incredible modern score that pulses and pounds at the beginning, bum bum bum, but also throughout the movie. And for me, as the movie started, you know, because war movies are kind of hit or miss, right? I mean, sometimes they drag, you know, they're slow if they're not done well. So I wasn't quite where Kevin was, as he said he wanted to hate it. I wasn't there at all, but
Yeah.
I was skeptical, but it quickly, you know, started to win me over. But as soon as I heard bum bum bum, I was like, "Bro, here we go!" You know, like I'm strapping in for this ride.
So
And
for me, those horns, man, that just set the tone for every scene, because I don't know if you noticed, but when the soldiers thought that the war was over and there's no more, like it's done and blah blah blah, there was violins playing and it was all nice. When they went back to the farmer to get the eggs, there's violins playing. But as soon as they went and said that there's war again, bum, bum, not even when Paul was sitting in that room by himself because Kat just died, it goes bum bum bum, and I went no,
yeah,
like I was not expecting them to go back into it, and sure enough, that's when Dr. Robotnik sends them back to war.
yeah, dude, it was, and I love that you said. Wait, I can't remember what you said.
But you love it.
You
Well,
loved it that much.
no, but you said something like, "Did you catch this or that?" You know, and that, bro, like this movie is so brilliant because there's so many things like that.
Yeah,
That like you actually the second time, and I didn't even get to watch the whole thing. I watched like the first 30 minutes, but even then already the second time through, like there were so many things that I was catching. Like, you know, so the movie begins um uh in a previous battle, right, where they start, where you see, you know, immediately, right, one of the realities that, oh boy, you never think of, right, especially back then, which is that they start to collect the uniforms and the boots of all the dead soldiers in
yeah.
order to, you know, patch them up and fix them up
Give them to the
to
next person.
to give to the next soldiers. Yeah, which, you know, Paul kind of, which is then so weird because you're wearing a dead guy's uniform.
Yeah.
And Paul even catches it, right? And he goes, "Oh, I think that, yeah, I think this was assigned to someone else." And the guy's like, "Oh yeah, it must have been too big for him or something." And then he rips off the tag and hands it to him, and then throws it in the ground. And you see there's a bunch of tags by his
Yeah.
feet. But before that happens, you see the trucks driving with the uniforms, and Paul's riding his bike, and the uniforms, the truck with the uniforms rides right past him.
Yeah.
So there's so much foreshadowing and
Yeah.
and so many little kind of secrets and things that are just like so brilliantly done. You know, it's so much more than just bullets and grenades and devastation. You know, there's so much depth to the story and to the characters.
And what Kevin was saying, that the first half was kind of like slow, I took that not as a bad thing, because once it gets to the scenes with the war, I mean, once you get to the second half of the movie, I mean, you kind of wish you can go back to those scenes where they're just kind of sitting around and joking, and you're just kind of sitting going, all right, what am I watching, you know? Because it gets crazy, man. It gets crazy, and they don't shy away from any of it. They don't shy away from any of the gore and the violence. And I mean, you can see that the soldiers are kind of like, they're mindless as they're going through their motions of killing. And it's not until like something out of the ordinary happens where they're like one-on-one with someone and they're doing hand to hand, and all of a sudden you're looking the other person in the eye, and it's like, whoa, this is someone that's like just like me. And you get that a lot in this movie.
And I will say, like, the beginning's not slow. Like, when I think back on it, the beginning's awesome. It was just, when I was watching at the time, when I had that little bitterness, I was just complaining about everything. But, like, when I sat down and said, all right, let me review this movie in my head, like, it all works great. Like, the beginning just builds up to so that the war can have impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what hits you, you know, right at the beginning is how much these are still like these are their kids.
Yeah.
You know,
High school.
Yeah, not only just from their like baby faces and whatnot, but just their whole thinking. Like they're super like amped up, like they're going to summer camp. And it sounds like they had been told, you know, that they were winning, that they were going to be, you know, marching towards
Their
Paris
superpower.
at any minute. Yeah. And that wasn't the case at all. They were doing terribly. And, you know, right off the first attack on the front line, where they end up having to run into the bunker, you know, poor Ludwig, you know, poor Four Eyes is freaking out, and few minutes later he's dead.
Yeah.
And you see this all unfold, you know, this whole sort of transformation and this sort of reality check of like, crap, and we signed up for this, you know, like what the heck were we thinking? It's wild.
Yeah. So I said that this movie had dethroned another one, and obviously that was Saving Private Ryan, because those war scenes were just so great, and the story was good as well. But seeing the life of being drafted, going into war, and then dying, I'm just like, man, there's no way. Like, this is the ultimate war movie. Like, this is what you want to see. You want to see the life behind it, the reasons leading up to it, what happens afterwards, and like you get all of that bit by bit in this movie.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting too, again, that you bring up Saving Private Ryan, because for me at least, one the most clear parallel that I found was Cats reminded me so much of Tom Hanks's character
Yeah.
in Saving Private Ryan. You
Yeah.
know, even with, you know, like that they were able to be so to be so heroic, and to be in war, in the middle of battle, like, you know, everything typical about a man and about a soldier that you would want to see and to be, right? From leadership to their friendship to their courage and their fortitude. And yet, back home, they were these simple little nobodies, right? Where Tom Hanks's character, I forget his name in the movie, but he was
Captain Miller.
Captain Miller, yeah. He was a school teacher, and here, freaking Katz was a cobbler.
Yeah.
And it's in a deeper sense, kind of like this crazy idea, that while hell, war is hell, and you never want a war to happen, or even less to imagine yourself in a war, that clearly there are some men who thrive or excel or are just kind of cut out for it,
Yeah.
much more than others.
Yeah. I really like the contrast when they were showing the war scenes, and then they were cutting to the scenes in the train, and how they have these lavish dinners, and they're sitting going, what are we going to do? Everyone's dying.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back to them actually dying. That was just, I thought they played that out perfectly.
Yeah.
I thought my favorite scene was the one when they were, I think it was on a farm, and they saw those girls with the cow or whatever walking, and then their one friend ran out to go talk to them.
Yeah.
And he was like, for some reason, it was just eerily beautiful when he was like, hey, the brunettes for me. And he's like laughing. But then the guy's like, bonjour. And he leaves with them, and you see the sadness come over them. And the guy's just leaving, and then he just turns around and walks back. But it was like so, like, he was all laughing, and then you just felt it just drain out of him when he's like, oh, our friend's leaving. He goes, can we do it? They didn't even think about that they could do that. They just walk back and sit back down, and the scene continues. And I'm like, it was just, to me, that was like one of the best scenes, because I just felt so much emotion when that happened.
Yeah. For me, my favorite scene was when Paul saw, I don't know how to say his name, Chowden, TJADEN, the one that wanted to be yeah, and how he was laying out, and he was like, oh, I don't think I could be a civil servant, whatever he was trying, a cop, or I think he was trying to become a cop or something, whatever he was trying to become. And Paul hit him with the, oh, you definitely can still be. And it made me think back to that scene where they were kind of sitting around, and that one guy told him that he couldn't do, and he's like, who cares what you think, man? Like, leave me alone. And then you got Paul, and that's what made me root for Paul, man. Like, he was always like trying to do, like, it seemed like he was trying to do the right thing, And I just, there was parts of me that thought that he wasn't going to make it, but a lot of me thought that he was. And when gosh, this movie toyed with me. So our friend Paul at the end, right before 11 a.m., he gets stabbed right through the heart, and he ends up kind of crawling out of the bunker that he's in, and now he's in the what is it called? The trenches. And the guy who he saves is coming to get his dog tag. Did you not think he was going to open his eyes with as long as they stayed with him on the key, like that scene?
Yeah.
They just held it on. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, he's opening his eyes. He's blinking. He's doing something. Because it was so long. And when it cut away, I said out loud, no, what are you doing to me? But I guess that's the point of the movie. Like, we're supposed to be drawn up into this character and be a part of his story. So seeing him not make it to the end, it just absolutely, it killed me. Like, there was a lot of love-hate in this movie. Like, I hated everything that I saw, but I loved it, Yeah.
And even about his death, I mean, I had the same expectation, and it was so illogical because I'm like, I just saw him get stabbed through the heart. But a part of me was like, he could survive that, like, so, and it was them holding for so long that I was expecting, his eyes to like open. But then also, like, dude, it was so well done because it just came out of nowhere, and again, even to explain to our listeners, right? I mean, it's just such a roller coaster ride, because at the point that the main character dies at the end of the movie, the war is over. You know, like they've already signed, you know, like a peace. Well, armistice is a pause that they had before that. There was a ceasefire. Now
Yeah.
this was the surrender. Like they had signed the surrender, and they were getting ready. I mean, they were supposed to have been shipped out, you know, but it was because of this stupid, bald, you know, prideful idiot of a general that couldn't bear, you know, to see Germany lose and his legacy, you know, probably be tarnished. That he was like, let's go back out there and take one last stand. And so now Paul is finding himself in a head-to-head battle with this one Frenchman, and you're like, what's gonna happen? Who, you know, is he? And then boop, just comes in some other guy just passing through, you know, like let
Well,
me
just
just
like Paul did to a couple other in that same
right.
battle.
Yeah, yeah, it's so crazy. But
Seven.
the hardest scene for me to watch, outside of Katz's death, which I'll talk about in a second, because that just broke. I mean, I knew it was coming, but it just broke my heart because I liked him so much.
Yeah.
But the hardest scene to watch was what the guy that Paul kills in the ditch,
Yeah, and
that
he's
won't die.
bleeding out for 10 minutes.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, bro. And like I'm like, Paul, like, please put this man out of his misery, bro. Like, shoot him in the head. Stab him in his throat. Like, this poor guy. Then he goes and tries to like stuff dirt down his throat. And the poor I don't at this point, I don't even know if the guy's fighting to survive or just fighting to just die. Like, please let me die. And
Bro,
dude,
that's a good comedy sketch right there.
it,
You have the
it
guy going, come on, man. Shoving dirt in my mouth isn't helping me.
dude, but between that and the guy to Jaden, you know, killing himself with the fork in his throat, and then the other friend. Don't forget that Paul watched his other friend get lit on fire.
Get roasted. Yeah, like a marshmallow.
Yeah, it was wild, dude. It
That was
was.
kind of on him, though. I don't know why he stayed behind the tank. Like, you see everybody running. Why are you still chilling, you know?
Yeah. Oh, no doubt, no doubt. I mean, again, and that's what Kevin was mentioning in that scene. He was kind of something was up with him where like he seemed at the beginning at least like he was going to be kind of a confident guy and maybe do really well, and then he was, yeah, like probably the saddest guy when what's his name, you know, the other friend went when Franz went off with the girls,
Yeah,
you know, and then he was all fixated on that to where he found the poster, you know,
yeah.
so he actually like had no confidence whatsoever.
Yeah, he was very it was very tough to watch. All of his scenes, because it's like it's one of those men you're just like, dude, why are you thinking this way? Like, why? But again, it was just I think it was a perfect blend of characters. So it wasn't like you're not stuck on one guy who like, why are you doing that way? Because everyone's got their own little thing, and it's you get to get a flavor of the month, you know, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I hear what you're saying.
I did not know this was a German movie. When it started with the because it originally started with German language and then English subtitles, and I went, "Whoa! Oh, the boys are gonna hate me for picking a foreign movie." But this didn't feel like a foreign movie, man. Like this
Yeah.
felt like an American blockbuster.
Yeah.
Because usually when you have movies from other countries, they feel a little different.
Yeah.
This didn't feel like this felt, because I want to say that, like, and maybe I'm ignorant or whatever, but I feel like everyone strives for America cinema. Like we've set this plateau for cinema, and so everyone kind of strives for that. And if it doesn't put up to that quality, it kind of gets like brushed under the rug, unless it's a really good story, you know.
Yeah.
This didn't feel like that. This felt like, you know, I could look in the credits and see a big name like Spielberg, you know. It was just it was that well done.
Even more than that, I think it, you know, because I think it even elevated the war film genre.
Hmm.
You know, like it was, like you said, this maybe took over your number one spot. I mean, it is to date, you know, one if not the best war film that's out there.
I
So
think
it's like
what,
not
what
only,
even, you know,
yeah,
what's even more impressive, like their budget was 20 million. Like
that's
that's just
it.
what Brad Pitt got paid for Bullet Train.
Yeah. Wow. I thought
They made this whole movie on it.
it'd be more. I mean, I read that it was the most expensive German film that Netflix has ever made. Which I mean, I don't. I've never watched any others that Netflix has made. But 20. Wow, that's. I mean, it was shot pretty much in like the same in like one location for the most part. But still, I mean, just the amount of extras and the set pieces is crazy.
100%. But I can see them reworking that muddy field that they were on to make it
Hmm.
seem like different areas. So I that's probably one way they save money. You know, the funny thing about war is I thought I'd always be bad at it because to me, I think the uniforms look all the same. And I'm like, I gotta sit here and okay, is that a darker blue than mine? That's kind of like a green. Oh, that's a green. Stab them. It's like I can't. I don't understand why the uniforms are they're so similar, you know. And that's one thing that always got me about these war movies.
I did think that at the end when they were in the trenches and Paul was being like put in the mud and he got mud all over his uniform, I'm like, how's anyone gonna tell who he is? Like he's all muddy now. I'm like, looks just the same like the guy he's killing.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, that was another part that kind of just gave me anxiety. I think it was at first when they're in the bunker and it gets bombed, and so Paul wakes up and he is just his face is just covered in dirt, and just continues on like that for a while. I just wanted to wipe his face so badly. And then I think later on it happens again where there's like mud caked on his face. Um, which again I was like, I just want to wipe his face.
That's the dad in you. You're like, hey, come here, let me wipe your face off, kid.
Um,
He had two of those moments though.
yeah,
He had that moment when he was in the ditch with the first guy that he stabbed, and then he had that in the second moment when he was one on one with that other guy.
yeah. Shout out to Daniel Bruhl. Uh, Great performance in this one as one of the diplomats seeking to end the war in a surrender.
He was
Um,
with France, right?
no, he was German.
Oh, German. Oh,
This is
he was German.
Yeah. Oh, he was in France, you said?
No, wait, which side was the German side? I'm so confused. Daniel Bruhl was the German side.
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, so who was the other guy with the big mustache? That was the French side.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. How about okay, so do you remember like the opening and the title sequence? Because it was so dope, especially as I was watching it again. So, you know, it starts off in the first battle, which is you're following the guy who's gonna die, whose uniform Paul is gonna inherit.
Mhm. Right.
And like you're following him, you know, the crap has hit the fan. He's in the trenches, and you know his commander or whatever is like, bro, get out there, you know, march on towards the front line. So he gets out. People are just getting blasted left and right next to him. He like runs out of ammo, so he throws his weapon to the side and he just pulls out like that axe that they all carry, and
Yeah.
then he starts running, and he just, the first Frenchman he sees, he just stabs him across his chest, and then you just see boom, black screen, all quiet on the Western Front. Dude, it was awesome.
Boom, boom, boom.
How about the scene with those tanks?
Yeah, that was good, man. So I really made me wonder, did they create tanks like specifically to go through trenches like that?
Yeah.
Because I mean they had those side mounted machine guns, and I was like, yo, they're just mowing people down as they mosey on through. So I'm wondering if that was like a real tank or they just made that for the movie.
I did read that those tanks were in the war. I don't think they were quite as good as going over
Yeah,
the trenches, or
yeah.
or maybe that's what they were for. But either way, they were like terrible. They weren't easy to operate, so they like quickly retired them after that.
They did some damage though. Well, I mean they had a weak point. You had to be directly in front of them. If you weren't in front of them or kind of to the side, then you're screwed. Like they were done for.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, to look up, if I'm sitting in a trench and I look up and I see those tanks lying across the battlefield, yeah, I'm gonna drop a couple stones right there.
Heck yeah. Not cats though. He was like, give me something that explodes, and I'm gonna put it right here near the wheels.
I think that was the first movie that showed me how those grenades work. The ones that look like a stick, how they're pulling it from the bottom and like yanking a string and then throwing. You don't really see that in movies with those type of grenades. Like you just kind of see them do something. Like they bang it, and then they throw it. This one, they were yanking something off the bottom, and I could see a string coming out. I'm like, oh, so maybe they're like, that's how they're discharging. You got like 2 seconds because they were throwing it immediately, and that thing was popping.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anyone else caught that, but that was the first time I ever seen that. I've always seen it like getting banged and then they throw it, not pulled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I definitely noticed that, but it didn't connect any dots for me.
I like, yeah, I watched and playing video games too helps. You don't
Yeah.
get to see them pull the grenades; they just throw
Oh yeah, you got lots of miles in Call of Duty.
them. All of them, unfortunately.
Um, that another tragic scene was the one where again that whole platoon that they got a mission,
Oh
to
my
go off
god!
and look for this platoon that was missing.
I
And
was looking for another platoon that was missing.
yeah, Paul finds them in a warehouse. It looked like nap time in kindergarten. I mean, the whole room, there's just soldiers lying dead on the floor, and it turns out it got gassed, and they weren't able to put their mask. Oh no, they took their
Took
mask
off.
off too
No.
soon.
So then I
And
think that's what it was. They were all
yeah,
laying down to pass out. They're like, "Yeah, we won. Let's relax." And so they took their masks off, and they all died in their sleep.
but
Yeah.
that was such a great payoff to the when Paul was putting it on. They're like, no, don't take it off. He was gonna take it off too early,
Yeah,
and then they pay it off with that scene. You see what happens. And
another foreshadowing moment.
yeah, it
Well,
was
and even before that, all the way in the beginning of the movie, remember, they all put on their masks, and he's too slow to put it on.
Yeah,
And so the commander at that time makes him wear it for the rest of the afternoon.
so he was slow to put it on. He's gonna be quick to take it off.
Bro, but it's just like so smart the way they foreshadow things. That's why when I was watching it again, Kat's death was even worse, right? Because at the beginning, the first time they're going to steal the goose to cook it to eat, they're stealing it from this farm. Um, then Paul says to Katz, he's like, "Don't get caught," and Katz is like, "Never." And then even before that, one of the first lessons that Katz teaches Paul, towards the beginning of the movie, he says this that almost kind of like doesn't make a lot of sense, but he says like he tells him hard work pays off.
Yeah,
And if you couple both of those moments and those lines all the way to the end, that's when I knew that he was going to die, was when he told Paul, it's your turn to go and get the animal, to steal the animal. And
Yeah.
I was like, no, Katz, you should have went, because Katz wouldn't have got caught, bro. He was fast. He would have been in and out.
Yeah. One thing about that scene that kind of made me chuckle, but as they're walking up to that farm, Katz is literally telling Paul that he needs to go to university and he's smart. Like, don't be like me. But then you send him in to this farmer who is looking, he's got the finger on the trigger because, like, y'all keep stealing from him. So that was kind of baffling to me that he would send him. I'm like, Katz, you just literally said this guy's got a future, and then you send him in to go steal something, you know? And he was like, well, your turn.
Well, a couple things. Like, I think maybe he got caught in the moment. I think also, I don't think he really saw the farmers as a threat. You know how they, like, maybe they'll have a gun, but they're not really gonna kill a soldier, you know? Like, I don't think he really thought that they would really, like, fire it to try to kill them.
I thought
Oh,
they pulled the trigger the first time they went in.
oh
And
yeah,
he was
you're
hit.
right. From the distance,
Yeah.
they were firing. But I think he just thought, like, bro, at this
He's a
point,
farmer.
what?
No, I just thought he's just a farmer. He's not going to kill us. Like, we're
Got
soldiers.
farmer aim.
Yeah, but also, like, I don't know, maybe, I mean, it seemed like by now, Paul, I feel like he would have imagined, all right, like, you've been learning from me for a while, you know, like, you should know how to handle yourself and how to execute this task, you know.
Yeah.
But instead he's like dilly-dallying with the chickens, trying to count eggs, and gets himself locked in the coop. You know, like,
He's excusing himself. Excuse me.
that would
To the
not have
ducks.
happened to cats.
Or to the chickens.
And I remember in that scene, I actually got scared because I was like, oh man, that Paul's going to die. But then I remember thinking, like, oh, they won't kill off Paul. He's the main character. and no, and that's why when they escaped, I'm like, oh, see, he wasn't going to die. And when Katz died, I was like, all right, Katz died. And that's why it really hit me when he died. So I'm like, oh, mother Fletchers.
They
Dude,
saved the best for last.
well, and then even, you know, he doesn't even die when he gets shot, you know, so then you still have hope, like, oh, okay, he's going to be all right. You know, it might have missed the vital organs. And so Paul, you know, slumps him over his shoulder and drags him all the way to the medic, to realize that he had actually died on the way. And, you know, the doctor saw it immediately because his blood was black. So it means it shot his spleen. And so all his intestines were now poisoned or whatever.
Yeah.
So he was just basically carrying his dead friend for who knows how long.
Crazy.
Black blood.
Yeah. But the other thing that was, like, I think that led me to suspect, you know, that these guys weren't going to survive, because it was like, I mean, all the things that they saw and that they experienced, it was kind of like, I don't know, how do you go back to a normal life after that, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's what I was thinking while watching Paul. I'm like, man, this guy's got to live with everything he's doing. And I really thought he was going to get that last death. And in my head, I'm thinking, man, how is he going to, like, process that? He's going to be so upset. Like, this is seconds before there's a peace. And it didn't go that way. The movie said,
Well, so that's the question, right? Because clearly, it was hard to tell with the other guys, with his other friends. I mean, Four Eyes Ludwig, he seems smart, but you know, he died early on. He was really scared. But Paul definitely seems like the smartest guy,
yeah.
in the group. So at the end, I mean, it just felt like something in him even flipped after Katz died, and then, you know, he's maybe expecting some relief and getting to go home now. Then he gets the order, you know, that they have to march right back to the front line for one final stand.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I mean, he's a smart guy, like, just duck, or just hide until this passes and then you get to go home. But it was like something snapped, and so yeah, I guess that's what do you think? Why do you think he did that? Do you
I think that the French, when they started attacking themselves, because they were at that last battle, once they saw what was happening, they said attack, and then they said charge. So they started getting out of the trenches and started charging. And then you noticed Paul is shooting people as they're running by him. So I'm thinking that in that moment he figured, well, they're coming at me. I just need to jump in and follow what's happening. Because had he have just turned it off and be like, all right, I got to kill, I think he would have beat that guy. I mean, he had multiple chances to do it. But I think that he was still stuck on cats and just all those deaths that he had to witness, and so it was kind of slowing him down. But I mean, that's how war is. And if you're not one of those people who are bloodthirsty that love doing that stuff, like that's going to affect you. So that's kind of how I took it.
Also, when they were ordered back, like my note literally was like, "Oh wow, the war isn't ending." You could just see the demoralization of those soldiers, of their morale. Like they just like everything felt like it left their body, and they were almost like cattle being like, moved over. Like, hey, you got to go back, and they didn't want to go. Some of them were being shot because they were trying to run, but you saw the other guys just pushing them like, you got to go, and
Yeah.
you do
Meanwhile,
what you
Paul
have to
looked like
do.
a zombie.
Yeah, because he thought he was going home. His friend just died. Like, I'm gonna go home. I have to talk to this, and it was just. I just think, like, again, it's hope leaving the body. You're just like, all right, this is my life. This is all there is.
Yeah, and then even worse. In the meanwhile, this freaking bastard who gave the order is sitting in his mansion, smoking a cigar and sipping his cognac,
throwing pheasants at his dog.
Yeah, but
it was like what 15 minutes. They're like, hey, we got 15 minutes, but we have to fight for 15 minutes, knowing it's going to be over.
Yeah, but it was the most vivid and accurate, ultimately depiction of the reality of war. That young men fight these wars for, for them it's for their nation and for their family and for all that, but like a lot of the times it's just for rich fat politicians who can't go and fight the wars themselves.
Well, never will fight the war themselves.
Instead of war, just have like a sumo wrestling competition between the two presidents or something.
Have an eat off. Whoever can eat the most.
Hot dog competition.
We got Joey Chestnut. Let's go.
We got Joey Barafuco for France.
But I do want to and this is slightly going into one of my fun facts.
What are your segues?
But because there's this silly writer for Slate magazine who hated this movie.
Hated?
Huh?
Hated?
Yeah. Hated the film. It was a woman. Whatever that means to you. I'm just saying this writer who hated this movie happened to be a woman. And but what she was also saying, which really surprised me, is that the film has not been received well critically in Germany. Like there's been quite a few film critics that have passionately attacked aboard and just hate this film. And the source of that rage seems to be that they took a lot of liberties with the source material. Like for example, what they were saying is that, like, for example, in the book, all the stuff with the fat bald general, like that's not in the book.
And
like him well, all the scenes in his house, and him having dinner, and then him sending them off to war or at the end there.
Okay.
Wow, so him has as a whole character, he was not in the book at all.
Yeah. Like apparently that I haven't read I have the book, but I haven't read it yet. But yeah, like that they added that, and I think they all do die in the book. They still all die, but before they die, I think at one point, like Paul does get to go home. And I think then he gets called back. But like during the time that he goes home, you like see him, kind of like dealing with PTSD and like struggling to be back home. So I guess it's not just all war, and I guess there's more nuance to it. So I guess that's what has certain German people or critics or whoever up in a rage over, and they were saying that it was like bloodthirsty Americans or Netflix or whatever, or even the Academy Awards, just like glorifying, that basically they'll just eat up anything that's war and like, killing and this or that. So
yes, correct.
well, but in light of that, and speaking particularly to this writer, Rebecca Schumann, for Slate
Put her on
magazine,
blast.
I want to make just a passionate defense of the war film, right? At the risk, right, of maybe being accused of toxic masculinity, or whatever, the reason that we value and love and appreciate war films, while we may have a sense of fascination to a certain degree with the violence, it's not just for the gore. It's not for the gore and the violence. It's because like war is a reality, and in that reality you still get to again see some of the worst and the best of the human experience, worst with everything that war encapsulates, but the best with the men and women now, right, who go off to battle and to fight wars, and who sacrifice, and who do it all with a sense of service and responsibility and duty and pride, and defending their home and their land and their family as well, and everything that they love and believe in. And there is something that is to be admired in that, while still not necessarily needing to serve just a glorification of war, but still being able to appreciate, sometimes in the worst scenarios, right, is when the best of people, rises to the surface, right? And that's what, all of these war movies that we enjoy, like Saving Private Ryan, and like Kevin said, Platoon, which I've never seen, but All Quiet on the Waterfront, and even like Forrest Gump, and even all these movies which depict war. I mean, again, there's some of the worst things in history, but which also have provided us with some of the best examples of humanity, right? And that's what we get to see through these war movies. So, you can take your little petty, snobby, stupid argument and just go ahead somewhere else with it. I don't even know how you get to write for Slate magazine with your dumb opinions. She didn't even talk about the movie in the article that much. She didn't even really critique it or review it. It was so dumb. So I just wanted to make a quick defense of war films.
And if I could say something real quick,
No,
did you
no.
ever Band of Brothers or no?
Oh, I love Band of Brothers. It's amazing.
It's been such a long time since I've seen it, but I did go through it in when it first existed.
Yeah. Well, I have it if you want to borrow. But just like Band of Brothers in this movie, I'm like, and while I was talking about war movies, I'm like, there's such a detachment from war. Like, I remember watching the Iraq War. I'm like, yeah, shock and awe. Like, it doesn't affect me at all. But watching these war movies, like I said earlier, it humanizes the war. Like, you know what? No, these are actual people losing their lives, losing friends. having moments that are lost to sands of time. But it's just like watching like 12 Years a Slave or the new Will Smith one, where Emancipation, where you see the brutality of slavery. You know what I mean? Like, we're detached from it. We don't see the brutality. Just like the Passion of Christ, like I learned about, Jesus got beat, since I was a baby. But watching the Passion of Christ, you see the brutality. You're like, oh wow, it makes it more real. The same thing with these war movies that we talk about. It's not romanticizing war. It's not saying, look how great it is. Yeah, there are heroes, but all these heroes have wounds that are psychological, that are physical, and it's just such a brutality that we who get to enjoy the comforts of not going to war don't get to experience. And it gives me a better appreciation for these people who went to war, and other people who, like our friend, my friend Danny and Israel, who've been overseas and served in the military. You know what? They've seen stuff that they'll probably never even talk about, that we will never know, and we get to be brought in, even if it's just this little picture of a window saying, "Wow, look, these are real people, not just these Germans, but like people who fought World War II, Vietnam War, Gulf War, all these wars." We don't get to experience that, and seeing it, like I said, it just humanizes who they are more. You're like, wow, like these are actual people, and it makes you feel for them. And all these people in government who's like, yeah, let's go to war, let's go to more war. You know what I mean? Because it's nothing, and it's nothing to us because we don't get to experience it. I get to go to work and come home to my girls, and these people are fighting for and giving up so much for us. So yeah, that was my piece.
That's one reason I'm happy I have diabetes, because I'll never be drafted into the military.
Well, and even all the more, right? As a German person, I can't speak necessarily to it, so I don't know exactly what you would feel as a German individual watching this, but I think there should be a certain degree of appreciation that it, like Kevin said, it does humanize not only war, but also in this instance German people in war, like in a war that they lost, right? And I think that humanization is important, right? Because you even, again, it's a preface to then World War II and what Germany and through the Nazis became, and how we view them now. But actually, even seeing even before that, like, hey, these were, and even in Hitler's army, right? There was Hitler's youth, right? These little kids. I don't know if you guys saw Jojo Rabbit. That was a great World War II movie. So it is, I think, serving, even because it is a German film, about German people, about particularly German military in a war that Germany lost. That I think for everyone else, I think can also serve in saying, like, hey, don't forget, like Kevin said, that the people in these wars are, sons and brothers and friends and human beings, that unfortunately,
the Band of Brothers,
got wrapped up in this mess. But that's it. I am officially stepping off of the
Slave magazine,
the podium.
soapbox.
The soapbox. Yeah, she really pissed me off. But
yeah, I mean, it happens. People completely miss the point of the movie. You got to take it for what it was. And I mean, maybe you're not happy that women weren't allowed to be drafted in the war, but at that time they weren't, and so it was just, we're watching the story of a man being drafted, following the propaganda that's being fed to him doing what he does, realizing that maybe this isn't, something I should be doing, realizing that he was told by his mother that that's not for you. And you then root that he goes home, like he gets home and he doesn't make it home. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's, to dumb it down, it's a pretty cut and dry movie. I mean, that's at its core what it is. We're watching a soldier trying to get home. So there's not much more you can add to it, and I don't think there was any other. Yeah, it's tough to put an agenda behind this, and I don't think it was unfair to Germans, but I think at this time, like, Germans understand that what happened in World War One, just because they're German, it doesn't mean that it was their fault. So, like, I think we're past that point of German people going, "Oh man, sorry for World War One, guys." So it's funny, but some people just like to hold grudges, and some people hold grudges for eternity.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So,
I'm ready.
do you guys want the fun facts before or after the
I
ratings?
already said I'm ready.
Okay.
I don't care what Kevin said. He's too busy thinking about what he wants to say.
No, I read the Slate magazine review. I was like, I should have read that. I was like, such crap.
If you're ready, then I'm gonna fire away.
Womp, womp, womp.
This is the first ever German language film to be nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture.
Hey, here, Germans.
And after having seen the film, I think it's no surprise. It is, like Mark said, it is absolutely worthy of being up there and being a very strong contender to even win that bad boy.
Yeah, I really think it is. I really think it is.
Mm-hmm. Next fun fact is that Erich Maria Remarque, who is the author of the novel All Quiet on the Western Front, he fought in the war.
Oh.
I thought you were gonna tell me he was like completely on the other side. He was like from Alaska or something.
No, he's German. He fought in the war, so it's safe
Bro,
to
but
say.
that makes sense. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Because just like Platoon, Oliver Stone was in the war, and that's where he got a lot of the stuff from.
Yeah. So again, considered by many to be the greatest war novel of all time, and a lot of it is due to the fact that it's told from the perspective of the losing side.
Yeah.
So I own it.
I believe the book is first person.
I want to read it. Yeah. So there's that. This is not so much not a super fun fact, but
Bro, every fact is fun. Stop.
well, it's merely that all along as I was watching this, the actor who played Paul, Felix Kammerer, I was like, man, I know this guy from something, but I was wrong. This is his film debut.
That was fun.
That took a turn. So I was like, oh.
And last but not least, you'll like this one.
Wow, this is my first movie. That's crazy.
This one you will like. At the beginning of the film, after the main group of friends have donned their uniforms, they're marching and they're singing this song, and there's a shot that tracks across them as they're marching and singing confidently with the rest of the soldiers. The camera then shows them in the order that they die in the film.
Oh.
Ludwig is first, then is Props, then Franz, and then Paul.
More foreshadowing.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. It's so, and that's why I don't understand this critic who doesn't understand that and didn't appreciate the actual cinematic qualities of the movie.
Maybe she was just upset that she was tasked to review this movie.
Also, you said something about women not being able to be drafted into the war back then. That didn't stop Mulan.
She really wanted to defeat the Huns, bro.
Point one.
So don't tell me anything about women fighting.
Wow, yeah, you saved the best for last. That was a good little fact there.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Mark,
Yeah, I'm ready.
this was your pick, bad boy. So why don't you hit us with your rating?
I think for last season, I had the number one pick was Another Round. I think I'm gonna hit it out of the park again with this pick. All Quiet on the Western Front. Um, yeah, this movie was just it was beautiful to watch. It was sad to watch. It was exciting to watch. Um, I it's one of those movies that you really have to watch yourself, and I feel like unless you write for Slate magazine, you're going to come out of this really liking it because it just, you're watching the story of a young boy being thrust into a war that he has no part of being in. Um, and he's wrestling with the things that he's dealing with in war, and you're watching bigwigs just kind of, let people die. And it's altogether, it's just a great movie. It
Mm-hmm.
was shot so well. I mean, it was nice to look at that, the soundtrack, those horns, whatever they were. I don't know what it was, but that those three notes that would hit, I mean, I felt it in my chest every single time. It was like a pit in my stomach every time I heard that because I knew it wasn't going to be good. Like I'm going to watch something that's just not good. Um, Not good at, you know what I mean? Not good in the sense that like this is a war movie, but it's just as a whole, it was perfectly done. Um, I I highly recommend this to everyone and anyone. Um, but yeah, this is five little Jerry's for me.
All right. I wish you wouldn't have said that you expect that this is going to be all fives because now Kevin's going to hit you with a 4.5.
No, no, I didn't say this is going to be a five. I just said this is going to be our best movie.
Oh, okay.
Best movie review. That's what he did say.
Okay.
Go ahead, Juan. Go ahead, Juan.
The best reviewed, so I'll take a 4.5.
All right.
4.75.
So, Kevin, you heard Mark. It's out of five. So again, a reminder that for those of you that have been listening since way back in episode 1, Last Night in Soho, season 1, where we had the 3 scale little Jerry's, this is the new and improved season 2, where we're coming at you with the 5 scale
Yeah.
little Jerry, and this
Apparently, they
is
didn't have enough numbers to work with. 1, 2,
never.
3 wasn't hard. What wasn't? What was too hard?
There's never enough.
Too limited.
I'm never satisfied.
Yeah, but then y'all throw in the 0.25, 0.75, 0.99999999999.
There's nuance, okay? I'm a human being. There's nuance in my opinions. All right.
Fair enough.
So yeah, that was a 5 out of 5 for Mark. For me, again, I've already said, and you've already heard in my comments, just my enthusiasm for this movie. But not only that, I mean, I do believe that again, these are important movies. I don't know. Do they release Netflix films like on Blu-ray? Because I want to purchase this and like own
That's
it.
a great question.
I think sometimes they do.
Like that would be the only shameful thing about it is if I could only ever stream it on Netflix. Like I'd want to own this. But again, these movies are important, right? Just like movies about the Holocaust are important, like Kevin said. Just like movies about slavery are important. They can't all be Eat, Pray, Love, and Young, Crazy, Rich Asians or whatever. What's that movie called?
Crazy Rich Asians? Crazy.
This is getting question borderline racist here, but it's something about Asians and rich. That's all I know. But these films are important. As much as they are also satisfying in different ways, man. They are important. So we shouldn't be knocking artists that are able to tell these stories, especially from outside of Hollywood, from other countries that are able to do this with this quality. Like it's incredible. And this director and writer, he co-wrote the screenplay as well. Like, knocked it out of the ballpark. Yeah, for me, no doubt about it. It's also a 5 little Jerry's.
Boom, boom, boom.
And Mark, did you notice at the end they played that same beat after the arm of the piece or whatever, and they played it very low instead of very powerful. It was a very like no. It was
Yeah,
really good.
because they knew it was about
What
to
was going
happen.
Yeah, but okay. So, you may not like this movie so much if you watched the 1930 movie, which most people I know under the age of 60 haven't. It's been about 30 years since I've seen it, and from what I remember, it wasn't that great. But this throws you right into the chaos and confusion of war. The score slaps, as the kids say. It's great. Everything works to perfection. Again, I went in not wanting to like it. I came out loving this movie. Also, I love the fact that we've talked about this before. There was no gratuitous like sex scene or nudity, or there was no wasted anything in this movie. Everything pays off later. I want to watch this movie with the girls because I do think it's an important movie to watch. I'm like, hey, let's watch this movie. It's good for you. And like I said, it's all quite on the Western Front. Beautiful piece of work coming out of Germany, and I give it a 5.
Ooh. He does it
My bad,
again.
I did the wrong one. Pew, 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 pew.
Oh yeah, dude. The one episode where we desperately could have used the sound effects, the applause.
The boy sent to the repair shop.
I'm hurting over here over my machine, and all you could do is think about yourself, man. About yourself.
Mark, tell us how you do it, man. How do you do it?
I just know what the people want, man, and you are my people. I know what y'all want.
Best part is we were just complaining about how it's been a lull in the movies that we were watching, and I think the last movie, this movie, I think we picked some great movies. It's up to Juan.
Well, there was a lot of movies that we thought were going to be good, and then they were just like straight up duds, But listen, the season is still young. There is many opportunities for someone to trump me, but so far I am reigning supreme. Like I'm 2 for 2, boys.
So,
wait
Kevin,
till you catch my next one. What happened, Juan?
Before we
Better
go,
be a musical.
I did want to give you a shot to tell the people when this episode should be dropping.
Oh snap! Let me see. What is this? We are.
No! Don't start rummaging through papers.
No. I'm just looking at the date.
Guys, looking through paperwork.
Came on the 1st. We should be third week of March. That's when this comes out. I will see you. My birthday will have passed, and we will listen to this episode then.
And we'll know when are the Oscars.
He has a random pile of papers he had rummaged through where he's confused.
Wait, when are the Academy Awards? Hold on.
I don't know, but listen, if this wins, we might need to move it up.
Hold on. Oh, this should be coming out the week of the Academy Awards. Academy Awards are Sunday, March 12th, 8 p.m.
Gangster. Perfect.
Nice. That would be quite a serendipitous turn of events. That might be the thing that makes us go viral.
It's called Synergy.
There you go.
Friends. Synergy.
That might, dude. How awesome would it be if Rebecca Schumann heard this, and then she and I got to go at it.
And then you find out you really have a lot in common. She's just, misunderstood in her thoughts and views.
Well, first of all, that review is her quoting a lot of other reviews.
Yeah.
They weren't even her opinions.
I know.
It really sounds like she was just upset that she was tasked with reviewing this movie because this is just not her type of movie. So she just phoned it in.
Yeah.
But this is me. I've never read it, so I can't. I'm going off what you guys are saying.
The lady got paid to print other people's reviews. That's what she just did.
All right, and on that note, I bid you gentlemen adieu, and until next time, we will be back with another film and more little Jerry's to hand out.
Mark.
Thank you, fellas.
Hit the beat,
And fun
Mark.
facts.
Hit the beat, Mark.
Love you.